What's good, Academy Nation? It's your boy Chaos here, coach of your Detroit Red Wings, and welcome to this season's postseason accolades for season 15. This is a chance for me to get to break down all the things of this season, about the team, what I liked, what I didn't like. Just gives me a chance to talk about the team. Having used the team at the beginning of the season, we talked about why we drafted things and what I was excited about using, but this season is now over and we get to talk about what I actually did like. Maybe it's the same as the beginning, but you know, obviously we've played 9 matches, so there is some changes, some differences that have happened in opinion since the beginning of the season. So this is allowing me to break down those, talk about those, analyze what we did well this season, what we could do better next season, and honestly just get to kind of have my opinions about the team and let you guys know about them. This is a little bit more opinionated than some of the previous videos. It's also the one video that's not scripted, as a I guess the introduction is not scripted either, but regardless, it's the one video that I get to like have personal opinions on. It's not going to be like heavily edited or anything like that. It's just going to be me talking and giving thoughts on the team. So I've made a couple categories. I used a lot of the same categories from last season, but we've added a couple, so I'll talk about those as we get to them. But let's go ahead and start with our team captain. And if you didn't know, our team captain is usually the Pokemon that we just bring all the time, and that just happened to be Darkrai this season. Darkrai was brought 9 of 9 games, meaning it was definitely the most used Pokemon on our team. I think I said it pretty much every week, you have to basically use your highest leveled Pokemon, and by highest level I mean when you're looking, I guess it's highest points. When you're looking at the points of the draft bar, Darkrai is in that first category with like 5 Pokemon, and when you have one of those, you pretty much bring it every week, and we did with Darkrai. There were weeks that I thought about leaving Darkrai off, but Darkrai really needed to come onto the team and run the team every single week because it had a role on the team as a wall breaker, a cleaner, a finisher. It got the job done a lot of the time, and it was something I could rely on most weeks to get the job done for the team to win. And we relied on it heavily. Even though it didn't end up winning us every match, it still was something that could have won us a few matches that we just happened to win before I needed to use Darkrai. Hawlucha is the runner-up for this category. It was used 8 of 9 matches. I think the only match I didn't use it was the first week because it did not have a great match into the sun that I thought. And I didn't like its matchup into that team just because of chlorophyll and the speed and all that stuff. But Hawlucha was something I rely on every single week otherwise than that. And it makes sense that both of these two mons get here because they do the same kind of roles. They are the wall breakers, they are the cleaners, they are meant to be sweepers at the end of the battle, not meant to be a whole lot of anything else, and they really helped the team get through a lot of tough matches. Hawlucha, without it, I would have lost week 2. I would have had no chance in the in the quarterfinals. So it's really given us the chance to get through a couple battles that were close, and I think that's why it's a good assistant captain or secondary captain of the team. But I did have to bring it every week because I realized very quickly that I needed something to work with Darkrai, so I didn't have to rely on Darkrai to be the sweeper every single week. And yeah, that was very important. It's one of the aspects of the team that I wish I built better. I didn't have a lot of wall breakers, so I built more defensive, and I saw that with they put together, I forget who put it together, but they put together a preseason like analysis of each team and what they do well and what they don't like about it. And my team was very defensive, and I didn't think that at first, but looking back at it, yeah, we are a pretty defensive team that doesn't have a whole lot of offense, and we really relied on Darkrai and Hawlucha to kind of carry the team in that aspect, and therefore carry the team in general. So it's fitting that they're both the team captains of this team because they were absolutely needed for getting through this game. Next up is the best trade. So unlike previous seasons, and one of the things I was really happy about with season 15 of RGBL is I didn't make no trades during the season. I kept the same team from week 1 all the way until week 9, which is quarterfinals. I did not change the team at all. We had some discussions about trading the things around. I really was looking at Chandelure instead of either Zoroark or Crocalure, but I do feel like we kept the right team. It would have been nice in some situations to have Chandelure, but we didn't, obviously. And yeah, that's just part of it. But I did make some trades before the league started. So I think I traded for Hawlucha, Crocalor, Suicune, and Mesprit. And Hawlucha, as I was saying in the last part of this, was absolutely needed for this team as a wall breaker. Limber, Unburden, Mold Breaker, all three abilities were pretty cool to have. I never used Limber, but because mostly I needed Unburden to do the sweeping thing. It would be nice to have Hawlucha on a team that had a little bit more offense, so I could try to run Limber, but for the most part, it ran its sets perfectly, and it was needed every single battle. I think Crocalor is another good option for the trades because it started making people really think about if I was going to bring it or not, because it was one of my Terra captains and a really good Terra captain, because Unaware is such a great ability, not only in Draft League, but in Pokemon in general. It was just a good Pokemon, and I feel like it made people question if I was going to bring it. I didn't bring it that often, but when it did come, it was really impactful for the team, and I was happy to use it. So I feel like it was a good trade. The other two, I'm not super sold on. They did their jobs. I'll give them that, but they're not as good as these two, in my opinion. We have the next, which is the biggest bust, and I am sad to say that's Arboliva for me. I know technically Mesprit appeared in less battles, but Arboliva was the biggest bust for me because I expected it to be something that I almost brought every single week, especially as the Terra captain, and I only brought it to 4 of the 9 matches we played, which makes me feel like it didn't really do what it needed to do. I also feel like it's not the team for Arboliva. That was probably why it's the biggest bust. Not saying it's a bad Pokemon or anything. I still think it's a great Pokemon and a great Terra captain. It just needs the right things around it to let it work in the ways that it needs to work. There was many sets that I had. I probably had more sets for Arboliva than anything else on the team. And maybe that's why it feels a little bit of a bust to me, because I had so many options that I wanted to bring that I never got the chance to try out. So if anything on my team is, this team is going to come back for another season, it's definitely Arboliva, because I want to try it again and I want to make it actually good and usable. So we're going to try a different team comp, I guess, with it and see how that works. Mesprit felt like a little bit of a bust to me, mostly because it was there to shore up a ground weakness that we had on the team. We didn't have a lot of ways to cover that besides Hawlucha, and I didn't want to have to be able to switch Hawlucha in, but Levitate really covered that, especially with Mesprit, and gave us another option to do pretty much anything. But being able to do everything isn't really great in Draft League. It's helpful because they don't know what to build against, but unless you do every aspect well or do a couple things well, you're not really going to stand out too much. And Mesprit's one of those Pokemon that it's got great stats. It can do a lot of good things. It's just not strong enough, not bulky enough, got the wrong typing to make it work. And I liked using it. I thought it was fun. I really loved the Healing Wish set. I think that was the best thing we did with Mesprit the entire season. But otherwise, it kind of felt and I never really wanted to bring it. So yeah, that's why it's on this spot. Next up is the best playmaker, and I feel like that obviously has to go to Knucklestack. This is a monster, and every single week it was brought, it did a lot of damage. I think it had 3 kills, 4 kills, and 2 kills in a lot of the matches. 3 of the matches it came to. I think it only came to 4 matches though. So it got a lot of kills in those matches. I think the one it didn't do well was the week 3 match where we got mostly swept. We didn't get swept, it was 5-0, but yeah, it didn't really get a chance to go do anything. And I don't know if it was the kill in that match or not. It might have been. But either way, we brought this thing, it got a lot of kills, and I feel like that was an important part about it. And it wasn't even meant to be an offensive Pokemon. So cool that it did its job better than I even expected it to be. And being Terra obviously helped it tremendously. So really glad that we got to use this season, and really glad it helped us out in the moments we needed it to. Clefable, I think, stands the same way. There was a lot of sticky situations that Clefable got us out of, especially with Unaware. I just talked about how good that is, but this ability is phenomenal, and Clefable is one of the best users of it, in my opinion. So I was super happy to have Clefable on the team. I would love to give it Terra, but I also would like to not, because then I'd have to give give it Terra over something else. It could be a really good Terramon. I think if you wanted to run an offensive, which it did have the potential. And I said that pretty much every week, that Clefable had the potential to sweep if the thing is gotten to the right scenario, because Unaware plus setup and reliable recovery, this thing was a beast and a menace, and definitely was a great defensive Pokemon that also could be offensive too. And I think that's kind of the role that fits this playmaker. They were able to not only do their role, but go above and beyond and do something else as well to cause problems for the other team. And I feel like these are two of the best Pokemon this season that did that. Next up is the best support, and that goes to Clefable again. As I said, it got us out of a lot. Unaware is so good, and I think it's the best Pokemon to have Unaware. Honestly, I loved using Clefable. I want to run this thing again. I've definitely got a lot of respect for Clefable this season, and I was watching another draft league while this season was going on. I was just seeing Clefable do stuff. I watched Clefable get a 6-0 sweep in another league, and I'm like, this thing is crazy. It's a really cool Pokemon, and I thought it was great this season for us. We did run it mostly support. It didn't really get a chance to do its offensive stuff, but that's because we were running a more defensive team, and I feel like Clefable needed to help us out in the aspects of more of its defensive utility than anything else. It had great utility and has a really good moveset too, and I really like that about it. Like, it just felt like the best support mon, and it ended up being brought a lot, so that just shows how good it was. The other two, I think I put them on here for the same reason, because I couldn't really decide between them. The utility of both of them having Roar and us using Roar to kind of shut down potential threats on the opposing team. I know we had a Roaring Moon issue, and that was Suicune was able to deal with that. We had Gouging Fire the first week that Crocodile was able to deal with. So having Roar on those two mons was great too, and Crocodile also with the Unaware. I think that's just a great ability. I'm going to say that like 70 times in this video because it is true. It's probably my favorite ability in Draft League. Having to think about all of that, definitely my favorite ability, and I had a great time using it this season. Really want to do it again. Maybe we'll pick up something else next season, but we'll see. But I had fun time with these Pokemon. I really think they were necessary to keep the team alive. It's part of the reason why, you know, they've been in other categories as well, especially like the trade one. I feel like they were useful in ways that I didn't really know before the season, and I have a new appreciation for these kinds of Pokemon. Next up is the most diverse. So when I'm talking about most diverse, I'm not meaning like what I use the most. What I'm talking more like what came with unique sets, and nothing beats that besides Iron Treads. We had Occaberry one week. We had Clear Amulet. Both of those to counters things specifically. We got Booster Energy. We got Assault Vest, Life Orb. I think Leftovers was one week, and I think it only came 6 matches, and I just counted 6 different items it had. So it pretty much ran something new every single week. I think that was cool. The moveset didn't change too much, but it did change a lot of its item pool and what kind of role it filled onto the team. Sometimes it was meant to be a hazard setter, sometimes it was a bulky rapid spinner, or meant to be more of a utility Pokemon. But it fit a lot of different roles, and I think that's really helpful. The Paradox Pokemon seem to be good at that, and I'm happy to use them in that regard. So this was one that I've been keeping my eye on, because once I saw Volt Switch one season from this thing, I was like, yes, I want to be able to use that. I never used the Volt Switch set this season, but it was something in my back pocket. And Darkrai's another thing in the back. It just has such a good move set. I wish it had a couple different moves like Thunderbolt and Ice Beam. Well, it does have Ice Beam, but I wish I had Thunderbolt to help with its electric coverage, because that would make Darkrai just so usable. Flamethrower would be pretty sick too, but we don't need to make Darkrai broken, I guess. But we brought things differently every week. I mean, I ran Dark Pulse. I think that was the only thing that stayed the same, and my stats were pretty much the same, but items changed a lot. I mean, we had Booster Energy. We didn't have Booster Energy Darkrai. That's an interesting tech. We had Life Orb. We run Choice Scarf, Choice Specs. We did what else did we do in Darkrai? We did the Salt Vest for 1 week. That was crazy. We tried Hypnosis out. We never got to use Hypnosis, but it was there. We tried it. We had Sub. Like, the movesets of Darkrai just keep changing around, and We never really ran it the same way, I think, in any matches. Sure, they weren't back to back. We never ran them the same way. I mean, some of the same ideas were used over and over again, but it felt like a different Pokemon every single week. And it's like, okay, you're bringing Darkrai. What Darkrai set is it? And it had 9 pretty cool sets, if you ask me. Up next is the most fun set. So we have the Week 6 match versus Prestige Worldwide, which was a 6-0 win by us. And that is one of the ones we just talked about with Iron Treads. Clear Amulet is amazing. I remember this set was specifically built to take on, what's it called? The new legendary Pecharunt. It was meant to take on Pecharunt because what Clear Amulet does, it stops Pokemon who are using Parting Shot to switch around, which is the bread and butter of Pecharunt. And so that nullified the switch, making it so Pecharunt basically had to be max special attack, Terra Water to do anything to Iron Treads at all. Because even if it did that and I clicked Rapid Spin, I was faster than it. So, and we were faster than it anyway. So, like, it could not beat Iron Treads 1v1, and I think that's really the big point of it. Clear Amulet was such a cool bring, and, you know, I never really would have thought of it as a defensive item, but it worked out in this situation. Because stopping pivoting is huge, and especially with that team that wanted to, I guess they did want to pivot quite a bit, try to keep things in and out, but, you know, it had a goal, it did great at its goal. It solidified the win that week. I think it had 3 kills. Just an amazing week for this Pokemon. Had so much fun with this set. I love when niche things like this work out. You saw it a couple of seasons ago when I did the what's that new item? When I did the Electrode versus Manaphy Tail Glow thing, and I took Mirror Herb, and I took all of the +3 for that, and had then an Electrode that was set up to do the work. That was fun. I really like sets like that when they're niche and they work out that way. That's why I think it's a fun set. I had a great time with this set, and I think it was really good, and definitely won me the game for this week. The other set, the honorable mention, is Suicune set from the same week. This was my best week, period, and I think in all of my leagues of Draft League, in all my years of Draft League, all my many seasons of Draft League, I think this was my best overall week. I think I played flawlessly. We had RNG on our side. We did the right stuff. We had the right team. We just had everything we needed to win. And a 6-0 victory in this league is crazy to come by. Getting it, man, I felt phenomenal after getting this win. Unfortunately, we never won again, but we had a good week. And I thought about putting Clefable here, honestly, because Clefable was the other 3 kills on this matchup. But Suicune was the pivotal role that we needed for this set, and part of the reason why it also was included on that support set. I talked about Roaring Moon, and that Roar was really huge. Scald was really huge for some burns. I think the utility and defensiveness of this set gave us enough longevity to get things into ranges where Clefable or Iron Treads could KO them, and it was a fun set for me. Like, I was having fun actually using Suicune in this match. Like, I wasn't sold on Suicune the whole season. I kept trying to get rid of it. Even before the league started, I was trying to get rid of it. I didn't really want to trade for it, but I was told it was good, and it was good. I just never really got to use it until like week 4, and then I'm like, okay, this thing actually usable. But this was the week that I'm like, yes, I'm so glad we got Suicune. I'm so glad we kept Suicune, because this set was so much fun. It's a really simple set. It's like a standard Suicune set minus we switched Calm Rhyme for Roar. But other than that, it was so much fun to run. It did really well. I was so happy with it, and had a great time with it. Definitely go watch the week 6 match if you haven't seen it, because probably some of the best team building and match playing that I've had my entire career. So please go check that out if you haven't done so already. Next up is the top KD and kill. So I had 2 separate entries for this last season. I did top kills and then I did top KD. They are the same this season, and it's pretty easy to see why. We had 9 kills on Knucklestack in 4 matches, which means it averaged pretty much 2 kills a match, which is crazy to think about. As I was saying, I think the only week it didn't get a kill was week 3, when I just got 5-0'd, and that makes sense. I think it would have got some kills if I didn't get 5-0'd that week. But it had a 4.5 KD. It didn't go down except for 2 of the weeks, so pretty solid KD, one of the best I've seen. And you win leagues when you get KDs on multiple Pokemon that are over 1. We had a few that were over 1, but this was definitely the one that blew out the water in the most part. And then Iron Tread surprised me as the second place. I thought it would be Darkrai. Darkrai's actually had 5 kills in 9 matches and had a KD of 1.25, so it was just below Iron Treads on the list. Iron Treads, if you actually are looking at the standings on the document, is my highest numbered one, but that's because the statistics on the document have not reflected playoffs at this time. They might now, but they have not, and Knacklestack's definitely my best kill leader on that. We didn't have anything crazy, like we weren't in the top even 20 of kills this season for all the teams, but we did have Pokemon that got the job done. And I mean, we had what 5-3 regular season. That's overly good, and that still means we got the job done. This is the most empirical data that I can give you for this video, to skills and stuff. And yeah, it could have been better for some of these Pokemon. It definitely could have been better for Knacklestack if I used it more, because I feel like a lot of people thought it was a problem, and I just didn't use it every single week. I knew there were some people like expecting it, and they're like, man, I wish that rock showed up because I was ready for it. And I'm like, no, you weren't, because I didn't bring it. And I knew a lot of people know this thing's good in this league, so I tried not to use it too much. It was nice. I feel like we used it the right amount. I feel like it was used the right amount. Up next is the best KD, which I already talked about. So we're gonna go to the bench warmers. I forgot to get rid of that one. So these are the Pokemon that I didn't use too much this season. I left off Mesprit. My bad. I feel like, well, it was Mesprit. He was used 3 weeks, so Mesprit would be in the Arboliva Zoroark set, because I used all 3 of those 3 times. As I said with Arboliva, I was kind of sad I didn't get to use it more because I felt like it was a presence that needed to be brought more than once, but I didn't get a chance to use it that often. Zoroark was another thing. Zoroark was probably the hardest Pokemon to ever slot into a team, just because it didn't really have a niche on my team. Like, it was nice to block fighting type attacks, but it didn't really do damage. I love the typing, and it just didn't work out. And I don't know. It didn't work out. I think it's a cool design, cool Pokemon, just bad. Not bad, but meh, mediocre. Yeah, mediocre would be what I would say. Like, if it was faster, it had higher, like, if it was physical or special, not mixed, like, it'd be so much better. Mesprit, the same thing I said earlier. It's just stats are pretty much the same across the board, making it not great at anything, but good at everything. So yeah, it had to have the right matchup, and often it did. Same with Crocalor. Crocalor and Suicune both came to 4 matches. They were hard, as I said with Suicune, hard to fit Suicune in. I really struggled bringing it until week 4, and then once I saw it was usable, I definitely thought about it a little bit more, but it was hard to bring it with a lot of my other defensive options on the team as well, especially with 3 Terra Pokemon, 2 of which that could Terra Water. It was hard for me to justify bringing an actual water type and not have the element of surprise. So I would have loved to give Suicune something like a Terrastal. If it could Terra too, that'd be great. But no, it didn't. And maybe that would have been the swap if I got rid of Arboliva or something like that. But I don't know. If it just needed something to do a little bit better. Crocalor was a great Pokemon. I had Clefable, which I think did the job better most weeks. The moveset, I think, with Clefable is what really sold me. Crocalor doesn't have a bad moveset. It's just kind of locked into the same thing every week. Like, you're running Flamethrower, you're running a Fire Stab, you're running a usually Terra Blast or Hyper Voice, and then you have 2 utility moves based on what you need. And one of those is always Slack Off. So you have 1 utility move at that point, and it's kind of hard to get it to work. Especially when the coverage isn't super great for it. Like, it basically gets fire moves and normal moves, and that's it. So good luck trying to slot it in. And those are usable moves, by the way. They get some other types, but they're not great moves. So these guys sat on the bench more than not. I think they were all worthwhile team members, but yeah, I just didn't find a use for them a lot of the times, and it just was the teams we were fighting against. I didn't didn't have a use for them in a lot of senses. Next up is the team MVP. So this is the last thing I want to talk about today. Of course, my MVP is Darkrai. I really struggled with this because I had 3 Pokemon, and all 3 of them are included on here because I want to talk about all 3 of them in this role, in this aspect. Darkrai was very important. One, because it was my first overall pick, highest rated Pokemon on my team based on points. Was something that everything had to worry about every single week with its speed tier, especially. It was a threat every single week. We saw Choice Scarfs like crazy this season because of Darkrai. It was a threat, a capital T threat. Everything had to prep for it, and even when it was prepped for, Darkrai could still do a lot of work, and I feel like that just makes it a valuable Pokemon to have on the team. It is a valuable Pokemon when everything's scared of it too. Like, an MVP doesn't have to be a Pokemon that's brought every week, that wins every week, that sweeps every week. It can be something that scares people to be like, oh, how do I counter this? How do I beat this? And Darkrai did that for the team this season. That's why I gave it the edge over the other 2. It wasn't necessarily the best Pokemon on my team, but it is the most valuable Pokemon for all the reasons I mentioned. Hawlucha, I think, fits this role too because it was a necessity alongside Darkrai. If Darkrai wasn't around, Hawlucha was brought every single week, same way Darkrai was, because I needed something to sweep. And that would have really relied on probably some weakness policy sets, some life orb sets, some choice band sets to try to get Hawlucha to do well. It was critical in a lot of my matches. It was great in the quarterfinals. It did exactly what we needed to do to stop my opponent from having his biggest threat to my team. It won us game in week 2. It was a huge asset to this team. Gave us a lot of things to work around with. It needs some better moves and some things like that, but it was a great Pokemon. And I feel like even though people knew it was coming, and even though a lot of people probably thought it was going to be Unburdened, they were like, how do we proc Unburdened? And with Unburdened, that's the biggest challenge. Like, how do you proc Unburdened? What are you doing? What are you running to proc Unburdened? How do you play around that? And Hawlucha was definitely a problem with that. And once it got set up, it could do a lot of work, although it's not strong enough to really guarantee a sweep if it gets Unburdened boosted. Same thing we ran into Sceptile last week, and I think that's not last week, but last season. And I think that's why we used Hawlucha a little bit better this season. We would have definitely struggled a bit more if I didn't understand Unburden as much, but thanks to Sceptile last season, we got that under the way, and we're able to figure out Unburden and realized when we needed to use it because it was there to stop things that were going to outspeed Darkrai and things that were Choice Scarf. So those 2 paired really well together, and I think Hawlucha was more valuable because Darkrai is around, which is why I gave Darkrai the edge over Hawlucha in this role. Clefable, I think, was another big asset. It won the biggest support for a reason because it was a big help to the team. The utility it has, the moveset, is phenomenal. It can be anything for you. Like, I never got to run a stored power set. It was there. I wanted to run it. I never really got to do Healing Wish on it, though I did run that on Mesprit. So I feel like it's just a great Pokemon, great utility Pokemon, great support Pokemon, and it even has its merits as an offensive Pokemon. So I was happy to have it this season. I think it was valuable every single week. It pairs well with Darkrai because of its weaknesses and resistances. Fairy is such a good partner to Dark that we needed it. And I think because we were using Darkrai, it made Clefable more valuable. So that is why Darkrai is the MVP. The other 2 were not as useful if it wasn't for Darkrai, but also Darkrai was not as easily helped if it wasn't for the other 2, and it probably would have been brought a lot less without them. So they all kind of have this symbiotic relationship, although I do feel like Darkrai was the biggest threat of these 3 and definitely rewarding to be the MVP of this team. Well, that is my postseason accolades for this team. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for supporting me for season 15 of the RGBL. We did achieve my goals this season. I wanted to have a positive record. Well, let's even go back further than that. I wanted to have a team that I was happy with. I was very happy with this draft after we drafted it. I was even happier after we made the trades. It was a good team, and that has shown that I didn't trade all season. We had a positive record, which was huge. I have never won more than a match or two in a season in this league, and I definitely wanted to go 4-4 at minimum to have a shot at playoffs. We made playoffs, which was huge. And at that, we didn't get the championship. We didn't even make it past round 1. But as I told my opponent, as I told Monty, and we've had this conversation a lot in the last 2 weeks that we've played, like, this is my hardest. That was my hardest team matchup. We still could have won last week, which is really annoying. That I just get set up with Knackle Stack in the end, because we still be going at this point in time. But yeah, that was going to be my hardest matchup of the season, and that just goes to show you that you can have a team that is hard to beat, but you also can overcome them. And that's one of the things I've been learning in the off season. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about: my off season training, my off season. It wasn't really training, but I just watched a lot of draft league videos from some of the best out there, and seeing how they built teams, seeing how they put things together, getting some tips here and there. I feel like we showed this league that we're much better than we've been the last couple of seasons. I think I went 1-7 and 2-6, and then to go to 5-3. It just shows that there is growth that happens, and that's one of the biggest things I wanted to showcase this season. Was I'm not just an easy team that you're going to win against because you're playing me. If I have a good team and I have the right resources, I can build a good, strong team that is hard to beat. And I think we showed that this season. We definitely are a champion level team with this team. And we just had a couple of unfortunate matches. Unfortunately, the worst one being last one in quarterfinals because, one wrong play ruined the game. And that's what it is. Yeah, that is what it is. But I want to take it a step further next season. We're gonna have the same goals. I want to be happy with the team. I want to have a good draft. I want to do all the things that we did this season. Have a positive record. Make a bid for playoffs. But it'd be nice to get to past quarterfinals next season to do a little bit more of improvement. It's not guaranteed every season. It's a little bit harder to do every season because now they take me seriously, hopefully. I don't think they ever didn't take me seriously, but I had bad teams last 2 seasons, and this team was really good. And I do think it is, I still think it's the best team in the league. I know there's some other really strong teams out there and we fought them, but I feel like this is the best team. If I piloted it better, maybe. If I piloted it better, yeah, definitely we'd be further in this. But yeah, there were a couple weeks. Week 3 where I didn't prep for the sand at all. Week 7 where I just kind of was playing to play. I didn't really come up with a strategy. And then week 8 where I didn't try all the way. And then the quarterfinals that we lost, I just made a misplay. And unfortunately, that was too late. It's like if we played better, we could have probably ended up with, I don't know. We probably could end up with like a 7-1 record instead of a 5-3. And then had a better bid for playoffs, so I wouldn't have to fight my team in the Rock Eaters again. Because I really do think we lost that match the first weekend either way. But playoffs, yeah, that was just tough. But either way, I think that's enough for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this season. If you want to see more Draft League, let me know. If you're interested in becoming a member of my front office, please let me know that too. I can get you a link to our Discord server. And shout out to the front office members this season for helping out. My biggest support has to go to Steelix. Thank you for being my biggest help in Draft League and my biggest help in team prepping, and even doing a mock with me a couple weeks. Definitely helped out. And yeah, I feel like he helped made a great team. So appreciate everybody who has helped in the past too of this season, and I hope to see some of you who I've worked with in the past who are watching this video to come back and join us for the front office stuff, or maybe get involved with the league. I'd love to have people I battled against come back and join this league so I can play them again, because it's been a lot of fun to replay some of these same coaches over the seasons and get better at the games. Yeah. I like that. I like the idea of getting better and just having fun with this. So, and I will say this is the season I've had the most fun with. I don't like losing. I don't think that's a thing I hide very well, if at all. It's very obvious that I don't like losing, but I feel like this season we did a little bit better at that, mostly because we were winning most of the time. But I did end up having fun with this season. It has been a lot of work. Draft League's always a lot of work, but it's been great, and I've had a good time. So thank you to the RGBL commissioners and people who are running the league. Really appreciate you guys allowing me to join again for my 3rd season. I look forward to seeing what season 16 holds, and hopefully it's a format that I like, because I definitely found that I like the formats with strong things in it better than lower tier and all the other stuff. So we'll see if I want to join next season or not, but hopefully I do, and I look forward to bringing you some more Draft League content, because I don't want to stop. I like Draft League. It's fun. I have a great time doing Draft League, and I hope you guys have a great time watching it too. Look forward to hearing your comments on the categories. Let me know if you agree with my picks or not. Let me know what you thought of the team overall now that the season's over. And yeah, stay connected with us here. Follow the channel. I guess subscribe here on YouTube. Follow my other channels. They're linked in the description down below. If you haven't left a like, please do so. That helps the channel a lot, and I really appreciate it on these kinds of videos, because they're not normally what I do, because Draft League can't happen every single week like some of the other stuff. So I would appreciate it, you guys, if you leave a like on it, show your support for the team, and our goal next season to become champions. So would appreciate that. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and until next time, until next season, I'm your boy Chaos, coach of your Detroit Red Wingles. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there, and as always,